Yet another one without an intro. It's all good. I mean, they can't all be winners. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling overly creative today. But of course, we are looking at another Spire Christian comic. This one is a Kiddies Christian Comics featuring Barney Bear. This one's home plate by Mr. Al Hartley. If you haven't looked at these videos before, we've talked about a number of Spire Christian comics at this point. The Cross and the Switchblade, an adaptation of David Wilkerson's non-fiction work about his work as a missionarying, really just preaching to some gang members. So that's a pretty good one. We also have talked about The Hiding Place by Corey Ten Boom, or her story, I should say. It's not really by her; it's by Al Hartley, an adaptation of her story. Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys by Billy Zioli and Al Hartley. That's the only one that has another credit other than Al, which is interesting. We also talked about a superhero comic about the Apostle Paul. That was an interesting one. But now we've got Barney Bear. I actually had a Barney Bear comic as a kid. It wasn't this one, it was a different one. There's a few different ones. And it was nice to read this one, because I did not ever see this one as a child. But of course, I'm familiar with the characters of Barney Bear and his mother, and somewhere's his father. We start out with a baseball being crash plunked and plopped into the house, and the mother exclaiming, and of course throwing up her wooden spoon. Everything flying everywhere. Great, funny animal cartooning here. It really makes me think about these guys from that era. They really could draw anything. In the case of Hartley, he has drawn some more realistic stuff. In the terms of Tom Landry especially, he's trying to get their likenesses, and does a pretty good job of it. And then you've got this here. And you see, he never phones anything in. Something else to notice is there's no panels. Yeah, there's no panel borders. Everything just sort of flows into the next one. That gives it a comic a nice flow. Also, it's written for kids, so you're going to get a lot bigger images here. The story's not going to be as in depth as the others, but he just doesn't phone anything in, as always. This is probably some of his best work, I think, in terms of just pure cartooning. Him at his best, and no flat images here. So a lot of different layers here, placing things in different spaces, I guess you'd say. The kids outdoors, Barney looking out, baseball bat, mom in the background. Lots going on. And there's another one, stuff in the foreground, bed, two characters, a stove in the back. And it gives it a real feel, like, oh, this is real. Here's a nice strong one-page splash. I wouldn't mind having this page of art, but who knows where these are? I mean, who could even track them down at this point? It's not like they're real famous, but that's a really cool one. I like that. These are sort of like little parables for the kids, basically saying, listen to your parents, or some moral like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm fine with that. But usually you see in a lot of Christian media, people that just aren't very good. But Hartley's really an example of someone that was at the top of their game in terms of at least having the chops to do it. Whenever this dad is like jumping around, there's always a weight to him, and the posing's always pretty good. Like I said, he never phones anything in. This Barney Bear wasn't as good as the one I remember reading as a kid, but it's still interesting. Just to look at the art, look at him. He wants an apple pie. Boom! He's shooting up off that chair. He's excited about that apple pie, leaving dust in his trail. I like that pointing. Funny animals, man. Everybody got to learn how to draw funny animals. This is probably the thing that interests me the most about this. Is a 2-page splash in a children's comic. How often do you see that? Hardly ever. Again, he had time to work on these. He wasn't on a monthly schedule, to my knowledge, with these. So he was really able to put the time and effort into these and make them as good as he could. This is an example of that. It's like, oh yeah, sure, why don't I do a 2-page spread of Barney and his dad doing various activities. And then you've got some panel borders here, but everything is being broken. There's only one where he's contained, is here. And then he's telling the story, and then everything else is broken. And even this, he breaks into the panel here. The water coming out of the panel, that's something that's interesting to me. I've done that in some stuff before. Really cool. And I like this. He starts here. I guess he started in this panel, and he rides out of that panel, and he's, oh no, I'm crashing. But he crashes, and then Dad catches him in this last panel. That's really cool, man. It's some great stuff. That would be cool to have too. Those 2 pages, huh? Yeah, like I said, this is all good stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, man. Just always lively, always good. Also, this whole baseball story in here makes me think, like, man, are we missing out by not having sports comics here in the United of States? And this character, I remember him from the one I had as a kid. And they always reminded me of the Berenstein Bears. That's probably intentional. That's probably intentional on Hartley's part, but yeah, a derivative character, that's okay. That's all right. There's Mr. Hartley himself, the concept, the writing, the art. Again, I wish they specified that. Obviously, here's my guess. He penciled it, he inked it, he lettered it, and ultimately, he at least chose what colors were going where. Would be my guess. It's good stuff, man. Love to get my hands on some of these other ones back here. Of course, I don't know what happened to the Barney Bear I had as a kid. I'd love to get some of these Archies, see what those are all about. Wow, we reviewed that one. I don't know what this Crossfire one is. I'm going to look that one up. This one is about the attack on Pearl Harbor. He's one of those dudes whose name escapes me right now, and I'll remember as soon as I wake up and have some energy. But he was actually became a Christian. He attacked Pearl Harbor. He led the attack in Pearl Harbor, and then he became a Christian. So that's interesting, for sure, for sure. Johnny Cash, I want that one, man. Through the Gates of Splendor. There's a lot of good ones. I get some of these ones I'm not as familiar with the source material, like Tom Skinner up from Harlem. I don't really am familiar with that guy. Sort of like the guy that was working with Al Hartley on the Tom Landry book, Billy Zioli. I know I spoke about him in the other one, but I had to look him up and figure out who he was, find out who he was. But it was interesting. 49 cents, man. Those were the days, huh? 30 pages of comic for 49 cents. That's the thing. A kid, even back then, could go to the store with a couple of bucks and get a stack of comic books. And now you go to the store with a couple of bucks and you can't even get one. I think that's one of the issues with, and obviously prices go up and it costs more to manufacture things, but the fact that you buy an Archie in the store and it's $8, what kid's gonna buy that? It just doesn't happen. All right, I digress.